Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox back for another episode today, and you're in for a treat. Why? Because I'm in for a treat. And the reason we're all in for a treat is I'm visiting with Sheila Slick. I love it when people see a market opportunity, a business need, or just look at the same thing every one of us looks at and see something completely different. And that's what Sheila's done. Sheila, with that incredibly long-winded introduction, first of all, welcome and thank you so much for taking the time to visit with me today.
Thank you for inviting me to be a part of your show.
Sheila, could you start off by telling our audience about your professional background up to founding PodtoBook.AI?
Well, I've been an entrepreneur pretty much my entire professional life. I've also enjoyed teaching. I've taught math. When I went to school, I did not study programming. And when the iPod Touch, which was when the iPad and the iPhone came out, when these mobile applications were introduced, I thought this is the future. And someone's got to teach my kids how to learn how to code. At that point, I had founded my second business. I was a retail jeweler, and I decided to get out of my comfort zone and learn how to code. Fast forward a few years later, a mobile application company, a software development company, was founded, and I moved back to the States, decided to do business consulting. I became a SCORE mentor and then chapter chair for Volusia and Flagler County, where I've helped thousands of people along all of these years to learn how to take an idea and turn it into a business. So that's a little bit of my background. And Pod2Book is my latest baby, and I am in love with this project.
So you have shared with me previously a little bit about what led to the founding of Pod2Book, but would you tell our audience what you saw, what you needed, what everybody else missed, or whatever it was that allowed you to have the vision to found Pod2Book?
Well, when you start thinking about what is my passion has been to share messages, to share people's stories. And I founded a podcast about 2 years ago called Milestone Moments in Business and Leadership, because I really believe that when someone shares their story, it could spark someone else to take action and positive action. And with that in mind, I have all of these great episodes, and they're kind of just sitting in the archive. And you need to think as a creator, how can I repurpose what I already have rather than just trying to be creating all this new content? Also, expand to different markets. Not everyone is tuning in to podcasts. So, what a better way to share this conversation in a different format? And that was what I was thinking in the back of my head. So when AI started to go mainstream, you have to transcribe the episode. Then you got to copy paste it. You got to clean it up. And then you need to turn it into either show notes or these summaries and so forth. And I noticed that it's also not, what's the word I'm looking for? Reliable, right? So one episode would look completely different than the next episode. And so that frustration led me to look further and experiment into how I could build something that would meet all of those needs. I didn't find someone doing this right now. And in this space using AI, a lot of people are either afraid of adapting it, but there is so much opportunity because with this shift, and it's a huge shift, comes opportunity. So if you have an idea or you don't see something out there in the market, or you're looking to take a simple process and automate it, something that works for you, I think now is a great time to get out of your comfort zone and experiment.
First of all, when you give me the podcast title in your remarks, you get an extra gold star. So you just want an extra gold star for giving me opportunity, or change creates opportunity. And in the world that I play in, which is legal and regulatory compliance, we say management of risk creates greater opportunity, or better management of risk. But you've given me yet a different way to think of that, which is just what I said: shift creates opportunity. And one of the things I've I live in a small town, and I've tried to tell young entrepreneurs that you can have literally a worldwide business out of this small town because of the internet. But you've taken that, I think, 10 paces past that, and you can create your own unique business opportunity or business proposition. And no matter where you live, no matter what you do, if you just get out of your comfort zone. What allowed you to do that? Was it because you'd done it before? Is it you enjoy that pushing yourself? Are you just did you play sports in high school or just a competitive woman?
A little bit of everything. I'm going to touch back. When I learned how to code, I was living overseas in a third world country. And I had three children. I was 36 years old. I'm not going to tell you how old I am today. You can guess. But back when the iPhone got invented or the mobile apps came out, I looked around and I thought, who's going to teach my kids this technology? This is the future. This is something they need. And that was the motivator for me while I had a retail store with my mother and my grandmother to start exploring and experimenting how to learn how to code from home. The internet is a window to the world, and this was pre AI. So, in that podcast, I had a guest, and I'm going to invite him back on the show. And after we turned off our episode, like the way that we're recording right now, he said, Sheila, have you tried coding with AI? And I thought, Mike, AI and machine learning, I think that's just like way beyond me. And the way that it's changing it so rapidly, I was kind of fearing it. And he said, can you do me a favor and just take any of your apps and just let your imagination go wild with the AI? And I thought, why would I want to recreate some of the applications that I had done 15, 20 years ago? Why don't I focus it on a need that I have? And that also helped me ensure that before sharing it and launching it publicly, that quality worked for me. And I'm a perfectionist in many different ways. I have a very good eye for detail. And I thought before I share this, I need to make sure that the quality is good enough that it would work for me. And that's where I'm at in the journey. It's been launched publicly maybe about 30, 40 days. This is one of the first times I'm talking about it publicly. So thank you again for the invite.
So one of the reasons I was so excited when I literally stumbled across this tool, and I think I read about it in a daily podcast newsletter called Pod News, but I may have read about it in one of my AI newsletters. I can't remember. Nevertheless, I have done manually what you have described literally since 2012 in terms of pod recording, transcript, first draft based upon a transcript, editing, putting several episodes together for a longer form, either white paper or sometimes even a book. And so I was very familiar with your process. But the thing that struck me about what Pod to Book gives me is the ability to go back to my back catalog now and data mine things. Like I did a week of Winnie the Pooh and compliance. I did a week of Star Wars and compliance, Star Trek and compliance, you name it. And I can put all of those in a longer form something, whether that something is a white paper, whether something is a book, whether that something is yet another deliverable. And I really like the way you talked about it in terms of content creation, because as content creators, we don't often think about our greatest resource of our content, which is our own stuff, our own back catalog, our own back. I've got 5,000 podcasts that I could data mine. That really struck me. But maybe could you just walk us through how simple it is to use Book, because even I can do it, and my listeners are going to understand that comment. You may too. But really just walk us through that process and tell us how long it takes and what you're going to get at the end of the process.
And thank you because you just validated what I was trying to achieve was keep the app so simple that in 3 steps you could take your audio, select a few episodes and press generate book, and then you sit back and wait probably about 2 hours it takes for the AIs to process, transcribe the audio and turn it into that manuscript. So it's as easy as if you already have a podcast episode or show, so to speak, you have it hosted in a platform, and that platform gives you an RSS feed. That is a unique URL to your show. It's what is used to distribute it to the different platforms if you wish to distribute it beyond the platform that is hosting your audio content. So with that feed, you copy paste that into the little search bar in PodtoBook.com, and then it'll pull up all of your episodes, and you get to select up to 15. Once you have the episodes you want selected, you go to the bottom and you put generate book, and you sit back and relax for about 2 hours, and you'll also get a notification in your email that your book is ready for download.
So I have to say, and I have to caution everyone, this is not a finished product. This is not something you can just cut and paste into Amazon or any other self-published. This is a first draft. And I assume it's designed to be a first draft. And I tell everyone who uses AI, if you get content from it, it's a first draft. The human in the loop is absolutely critical. You're going to have to personalize it, but you've got a first draft and that you can then use it in really any way. The other thing that, frankly, I was so excited about is, once again, living in a small town, I'm trying to communicate to business owners that there's a wealth of social media marketing they are not engaging in and that they can at very low cost. So my town is too small to have a television station, too small to have a radio station. It has 3-day-a-week newspaper. And I know what a newspaper ad costs. It's $500. And you can do a lot for under $500. So it struck me that this could also be used not as a pod to book, but as a pod to content creation in a variety of forms. And if you could take a podcast and get 5, 10, 15 different pieces of social media marketing, whether it's a quote, whether it's a paragraph, whether it's a something that business owners should see. I see the value in that for business owners, but is that a part of the folks you're talking to or the people who are using your tool?
So I am fascinated because I love feedback and I'm learning, and people are sharing how they're using the tool. One of my clients said this is a pitch book. And so instead of creating an entire book of 10 to 15 chapters, they're taking each individual episode and turning it into a PDF and then sending that out to their podcast guest or their client. And so in 5,000 words, which is about 4 to 5 pages, it's now a narrative. It tells the story, highlighting the key points of that conversation, preserving the voice, and extracting a few key quotes. That's how it is programmed. So I loved the idea of pitch books. I may even add a service offering called a mini book where you could perhaps process 3 to 5 episodes so that you don't feel that you need all of this content. A different way that it's been used, and I was actually a speaker about right before I had launched this down in Miami, and we were 6 women. We were 6 panelists, and then we had the event host. And so she recorded the entire event, uploaded her audios to her Spotify. So that was 7 audios, her introduction to the event, and then the audio of each of her panelists. And in less than an hour, because it was only 6 or 7 episodes of audio, it turned it into a book. And she turned that into a PDF that then she shared to all of the people that had registered and attended the event. She has it on her website, so it helps promote and preserve the guests from that particular event. And she's hosting a whole new event. And I have a different client that's doing that virtually. She is, and we're actually sponsoring this event. She has a event called SWOT, which stands for Strength, Weaknesses, Opportunities, and Threats in the Business World. And she's invited different business owners. She's having to open up a third day. So it's a 3 day summit. And all of these recordings are going to be a series of books. She just published, and she's launching it today. You can pre order her book of the first book that she did using PodtoBook.AI. So these are just different ways that businesses are using them. In a personal note, my grandmother is 96 years old. My father in law, my stepfather, they're in their 80s. And they all want to share their story. They want to share what they've accomplished in their own words. And so I took the phone and I recorded my grandma just now. Tell me about your grandparents. Tell me about your parents. And then I asked her a few questions about her life. And I'm about to run that through Pod to Book to see how it can also serve for someone that wants to share their story, not publish it, just export it into a PDF. It can get printed and then preserved and shared within the family. So these are all the different creative ways that we're using PodtoBook.AI.
That's absolutely brilliant. And I wish I'd had the chance to do that with my father. I did have the chance to do it with a man I met in Kerrville who was in his 90s. But we did it the old fashioned way. I did a podcast, recorded it, gave him a copy of the transcript, and he wrote a chapter of a book based on that. But the gift of that for his family, his oldest daughter, who is my age, said there were stories in her dad's autobiography she'd never heard of, and she was 69. It can be a gift that will literally give forever. And if you're listening to this and you have a parent that age, just do record them. I wish I'd had that chance. But yeah, it sounds not only are you scratching the surface through your own innovation, but once you throw it out to the universe, it's coming back with all of these different ideas that you're seeing people use, and you're able to incorporate that into your service offerings going forward.
Yes. So if you have any suggestions or your listeners have any suggestions, I'd love to hear.
Sheila, unfortunately, we are near the end of our time for this episode. But before we leave, I wanted to ask you if anyone wanted to connect with you, find out more about Pod to Book AI, what would be the best place or places for them to go?
Pod, PodTO, book, BOOK.com is the marketing page where you can learn more about the software. And Pod to Book period AI is the actual app if you want to use it again or just go ahead and try a sample chapter. You can do that for free. You don't even need to put a credit card in. You do need to log in with Google to make sure that you're legit and that you have a legit email because that's how we send the sample and the book out. If you want to follow me or connect on LinkedIn, my handle is Sheila, Sheila, Slick, Slick.
Well, Sheila, this has been a great podcast. I'm probably going to put you on several different shows. Innovation is certainly one of them. Fox on Podcasting is one of them, and I may have a third. So this has been great. I hope we can continue this conversation.
I look forward to it and thank you again for the invitation to your show. I really appreciate you.